Alright guys, we're gonna continue. Our second speaker tonight is someone who's spent years capturing real stories through his lens. Let's give a big round of applause to Chris! Did you turn it on?
Nothing. Oh, now we got something. Hello, I'm Chris. Nice to meet you guys all. You know, I'm actually really happy to see you guys all because I don't know 95% of you guys, and I think we need a community like this in Shanghai. How many of you guys are working in the film industry? Can I see some hands here? Like, who is actually? Holy shit! Yeah, so many of you guys. That's awesome. I'm really happy to meet you guys because. A lot of what this talk is about my mistakes and the things I wish I had known. And the only way I could have known it is if I had known people like you guys. Because I feel like in filmmaking, most of the things we all struggle with, somebody else has already struggled with and has already found a solution for. And so that's kind of what the purpose of this talk is. I want to talk about the things that I wish I had known earlier, the things I didn't figure out right away, the mistakes I made. So what you see here, the logo on the left top here, that's my company. It's called Memos to the Future. Because I do think that every documentary, every piece of film that we make, people in the future will look back and say, oh, that's who these guys were. That's what that generation was like. And if you think about it, like for people who lived in the 1800s, we can't really look back. There were these stilted pictures, these black and white pictures where people had to sit still for 2 minutes. This is the first real time that people in the future can see us in 4K resolution later and really get an idea for who we were. And so what I do a lot, what we do a lot is we make documentaries. A lot of them are for TV channels, for broadcasters, for streaming platforms, and also for clients. And so I've worked with Billy, I've worked with with Deutsche Welle, I've worked with Neo, I've worked with Starbucks, with Budweiser, with you name it, TV station, I've worked with them. This is one example for a project that I thought, oh, this is going to be a really great way to break into documentaries. Because they called me and they basically said, hey, can you make us car reviews out of China? There's so many interesting cars coming out. And I thought, well, that's kind of boring, right? It's like, there's so many of those on YouTube already. Why don't we do something more interesting? Kind of like an Anthony Bourdain No Reservation thing, where we take a car and we go and we eat something, we meet people and we have adventures. And we made this film, which is a 20-minute film, and it was all nice and well, and guess what? No budget to do more stuff like that, because that's not what they wanted. And that was a learning for me as well. If you want to do your own thing, you have to do it by yourself in the beginning. Because if you're working with other people, with broadcasters, you are basically working on their dreams and not on your own. This is another documentary that I did for a European broadcaster called ARTE, together with CCTV. And it was on the rise of China's wine industry. It's a 1-hour documentary. And they basically called one day and said, hey, we noticed that Chinese wines are winning all these big awards. Can you go and make a film about this? Can you explain to us what's going on? Who are the people who are having these Chinese vineyards? And again, I thought, oh, this is a really great way to start something, to start a career in a relationship with those guys. It's a great way to later pitch them my own ideas. And that was a mistake. Because what happens when you do these kind of projects is, yes, you get to live an interesting life, you get to make a nice paycheck, you get more of those kind of projects. They have an idea, they call you, and they say, can you make something good for us out of that? But they're not interested in your ideas. They're not interested in your own documentary ideas that you want to make happen. And so I want to talk about how we then, if this didn't work, made one of those of our own documentary projects happen. This is a series called Living History, Stories from the Opening of China. And I don't know if you realized, but China went through a massive, massive change, right? In 1979, it opened up to the West. A lot of foreigners came here, a lot of Chinese went abroad, a lot of people did really interesting things together, but there's very little content produced about it. There are very few books about that, about what happened in that time. There's very few documentaries, there's very few films about it. And so I was always meeting these kind of people who were doing all these interesting things, who had started car companies, who had built hospitals, who had built the first luxury hotels, all these kind of people. And I thought, somebody needs to record these stories, because all these people are getting old. They're all moving away, some of them are already gone. These stories, in 30 years, people will be really interested in. People will have forgotten what happened, and there will be no way of accessing basically the information of how China became to be the country that it has become. And so I made a huge mistake. I went out the first year and I tried to raise money. And you know what I heard a lot? People said to me a lot, this is really interesting, this is really important, we have no money, please go away. But we still made it, and before I'm going to tell you how we made it, I'm going to show you a couple of minutes of some examples of the interviews that we shot for this series.
When I first came to the village, which was in the mid-'80s, I built the house without having any final permission to be able to inhabit the house. I remember we finished it, and I still didn't have permission, and I moved in, and we still didn't have permission. So finally, we gave a lunch, and it had all of the local officials that were there, including the guy who was the head of the local police. This is so many years ago now, I guess it's okay to tell. And so we're there, and we had nice lunch, no money, no bribes, no nothing like that, but just a nice lunch and some Chinese booze and some cigarettes. And every single person has to buy off on it because it's a risk to let a foreigner come and live in the village. What happens if the foreigner gets hurt? What happens if the foreigner gets robbed? You know, somebody's going to be responsible for it. And so the head of the cop shop sits with me and he decides that he likes me. And he pats me on the knee. He says, you know, for a foreigner, you're not so bad. We're going to let you live in our village. It's okay. But you know, you have to put some glass shards on the top of the wall around your compound, because that way it will stop people from coming in. It will stop robbers from climbing over the wall. And so we did that, and we've been living here ever since. And we never had any trouble at all from a security perspective, ever, except once a couple of boys threw a rock over the wall when we weren't there and broke a window. And of course, who had done that, the village found out, and those boys were, you know, admonished not to do that kind of thing anymore. Never, ever had any trouble.
The simple act of filing a story was a major deal. First, I had to type it out. Eventually, I got an electric typewriter. That was better, but some of us only had brought manuals. Then I had to get on my bicycle and ride down to something called the Telegraph Building, Denbao Dalou, which was several kilometers away. And then, you know, I had to kind of go to a desk, and it was lugubrious, very dark. Go to a desk, give them a copy, and either they would do it or sometimes I would do it. Type into a telex machine. So you have to retype the whole thing again, and it spits out a little tape with holes in it and whatnot. And then when it's all done, that's what gets transmitted. It took hours. Even for the simplest thing, it took hours. And that's how we filed in those days. I mean, people today, they don't even know what a typewriter is, much less a telex machine. So it was difficult. It was difficult. I think had I not been quite so young and inexperienced and naive, I probably would have been a lot less patient with the whole process.
Then get out of San Francisco airport, look at the blue skies, and wow, just you know, it's finally indeed this is a foreign country that set food. So that's just a very, very unique experiences. And then my first night, I went to settled in Berkeley. First time walk into a supermarket, and I was wearing my mouse jacket. I was shocked, amazed about the abundance of the food. I was counting type of ice creams, about 11 different kind of ice creams, and the soft drinks. At the time when I left China in '81, most of commodities were in rationing, and you have to get a special coupon, and to get a pair of shoes or whatever, and even eggs and sugar. Now here is it. You know, the little tiny, not too big supermarket. I look at it, you know, soft drinks, you know. How wealthy the American life was at the time, you know, I thought, well, gee, you know, they have more than 10 different kind of a brand of ice cream.
我来了中国，我不需要这样的，因为我原来是在美国，我是一个土生土长的一个芝加哥的一个老百姓。但是我到了中国，我发现很多人他们都对我非常好奇。80年代大家都很想就是对国外，所以这个我觉得80年代虽然穷，但是我到了陕西就是延安，85年去延安都打车从包头到延安。我们到了很多农村的老百姓的家，他们都非常愿意给我们做的他们最好的一些菜。他没有钱，但是他们给了我们一些菜。有的时候他们会把他们就会觉得有一点像，对。不好意思。
想起了什么？当时的什么？
哦，他们没有钱，他们什么都没有，不能吃的。但是他们有时候我就会把10块钱、20块钱都放在我的盘子下面，然后他们会 chase me and want to give back the money. 不好意思。
非常淳朴的中国老百姓。
对。
非常质朴的，就对你好。
非常好。理想主义是，我觉得它也有它的有它的重要性，而且我觉得很多人现在我们都失去我们的一些理想主义，就是为了追求一种比较物质就是比较偏物质的一种生活。所以我觉得80年代我都是这样的，我觉得中国一直在开发，我也是一直在开放，所以我觉得这个就是一个很好的一个平台，就让我们双赢互相了解。
Over the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, we tested tens of thousands of kids in 10 different provinces, and Yeah, on average, about 60% of them had at least one of these conditions. And if you have anemia, your brain just doesn't function well, right? And so you got a good teacher, you got a good book, you just can't keep up. And that's when we launched the National Nutritious Lunch Program. Actually, what we started to do was we started to say we'll give every kid a vitamin a day. We go back to the same schools where the anemia rates were around 40%. Guess what they are today? About 5%. Rural China's nutrition is better than the United States.
There's the brand, the Chinese Jordan brand, Chaodan. And that company, I think it was a few years back, they got sued by Michael Jordan and Nike for using Michael Jordan's name. And what had happened was in the China market, they registered the Chaodan, the Chinese characters, which is what everyone uses to call Michael Jordan. They registered his name, and they registered a logo, an image of him. But they couldn't use Michael Jordan. And at the time, I knew that they were the Chinese version of Michael Jordan, but I was asked to do an advertisement. And it was always very, very common that they'd have a picture of a Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or something. They say, can you do this? So they had me do some jumping in the air with the ball and so on. And they had me do a Michael Jordan type of pose. And that became the image that they used across the country for their brand. And then years later, Michael Jordan suing them, and I'm thinking, oh.
So we've been filming about 30 of those interviews already. Each one of them is like 45 minutes to an hour 20. Our goal is to talk to 100 people, and it's incredible how friendly and generous people are with their time. We had some people who are legitimately famous and legitimately important big people just open the doors and be absolutely nice to us just because we were curious about it. And the other person who you heard asking in there actually is very important, and that's my Chinese co-director. Her name is Xiao. I didn't want this to be a project that just some middle-aged white foreigner did about history in China. I wanted this to be two perspectives, and I wanted it to be her for that reason. She used to work at Bilibili in the documentary department and is a very accomplished documentary producer and director as well. She works a lot for Discovery and IFA. And that is actually probably the biggest learning that I can give you guys today is find people to work with. It is so much more rewarding when you're not all alone out of there, because realistically, a lot of us, we write alone, we edit alone, we do so many things alone. To have somebody in your corner who is equally as passionate about something makes it 100 times easier. But again, the important other part about this for us is don't wait for anyone to give you money for your idea. People don't want to give you money because you're just one of 100 people coming through and saying, please give me something, I have an idea, I can make it. They want to join you once you're doing something cool, right? That's when it comes. Like, why does every actor want to work with Quentin Tarantino? Because he already made Pulp Fiction. If you're just somebody starting out and saying, hey, I have an idea, I want to do something, but I've never done this particular part before, how am I going to know, right? And so we went around for a year and we cold called, we cold emailed, we talked to all the broadcasters and other streaming platforms that we had done these programs for. And guess what? Nobody wanted to fund it before. All that has changed since. Instead, the thing that really worked for us is we told everybody about our struggles. And even though that most people didn't have money themselves, everybody knew somebody. It's like, oh, you should talk to that person. You know, this is something you can help with. And also, this is something during production that I learned. Talk openly about the things you don't know, about the struggles. Share it with people. Say like, oh, I'm really trying to figure this part out. Because chances are, there's somebody in the room who has an answer for that. And even if you get 2 or 3 answers that are a waste of your time, maybe the next person has a really good idea. That's how I learned. Another thing that I learned, and this is probably the most important slide, be nice to absolutely everyone who contacts you. If somebody watches this series and takes the time to write me an email, and I put my email address in every video, they get a reply back from me. I will never, never ignore anybody. And if you look at this, at the very bottom, it says, Living History Project and Recommendations for Interviews. That was just some email that I got from absolutely nowhere. I had no idea who this person was, but they got a reply and a conversation came out of it, and it turns out they are the head of a really, really, really big NGO, and we got $100,000 out of them to continue making this project. And that, to me, was a real eye-opener. When you're doing good things, and people like the things they do, they want to join, and they want to help, and they want to support. And this thing was just completely no strings attached. It was like, we like what you're doing, we think it's worthwhile, keep doing it, we want to support it. And that's why be nice to everyone who contacts you. However, at the same time, shit happens too. And this is something that happened to us. We initially had all of our videos, both short clips, excerpt clips, because they're more popular, and the full episodes on Chinese social media and on YouTube. Meaning we had it on Xiaohongshu, we had it on Bilibili, we had it on Douyin, and we had it on WeChat channels. And all our Chinese social media got deleted on the same day. This happened because the American ambassador tweeted something, and somebody in the government here basically said, "Ooh, we don't like that." And the next thing we knew, our channels were gone. Chinese channels, we had about 1.5 million views. So that was a pretty dispiriting day. But it was not the end to it. And that's really the other thing that I can only tell you. You will have days where, like, asking yourself, is this really worth it? Should I really do this? And quite frankly, if you are passionate about it, if you really think it's a good idea, really keep at it. It's worth it. It's really worth it because you will have good days as well. Don't give up. And that's pretty much it. That's all I learned from now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Right now we have time for questions. Guys, if you have any questions, don't be shy. I will give you a microphone. Come on. Oh.
I appreciate you.
So I'm currently have 5 GBs of footage, and it's a documentary about dancers, and I need to edit it. How do I maintain a focus? Like, how do I keep a viewer focused? Because it's documentary, it's like mostly interviews, and let's face it, documentaries are boring. How do I keep it like entertaining?
Documentaries are not boring. You're breaking
we
my
saw
heart.
that. How do I make it like semi-documentary? Is there such a style?
I mean, the absolute first thing when you said that you have so much footage is like, I hope you got it backed up. Because hard drives do go bad. It's not a matter of if, it's when. That was the very first thing. But I've also learned that sometimes I just need to walk away for a week and think about something else and then watch everything. And you know how when you're sitting close to your mouse or something, you're very, very likely to just fast forward through something. So what I do is when I watch an interview, is I step away from a computer, sit on the couch with a piece of pen and paper, and I just write down, like, whenever I hear a sentence that I think is interesting. Because many of our stories, our interviews are like 3 hours, and I'm like, oh, this could be a moment, that could be a moment, that should be. But it really takes a moment to walk away for me. I don't know if you're the same way, right? But if the moment that I go out of the interview, out of the filming, I'm really excited. I'm like, oh my God, I got so many cool ideas. But when I later look at it with a little bit of distance, it's completely different. And then the other thing really is talk to somebody whose taste you trust. You know, I have many friends who are very forthcoming with opinions, but not everybody is a good storyteller. Not everybody can recognize it. So you have to know who among your friends really understands story.
Thank you. That's the answer. Thank you.
I try.
Any more questions? Come on, guys.
Oh. I can't see you, but I'm listening.
Good. Thank you very much one more time for your speech. If possible, I will start from far away. Recently, I have read an exciting novel which is picturing actually a book inside the book. So the main character is a novelist who is taking a quite twisted historical context to publish a book about. And what is happening, people is trying to question her authority. They're asking, are you the right person to take this story and tell it about? Are you even in this historical or ethnical context? And because this novel is about Asia, they're questioning, are you Asian? Do you speak Chinese? And there is a lot of interesting argument if the person that is not connected to the story is the right person to tell the story. And I would like to kind of bounce this question back to the filmmaking. If people are questioning your authority as a storyteller and how to be confident about the context that is not maybe your background or your direct heritage. Thank you very much.
I think we all, yes, I think we all sooner or later will run into people who question whether we can really understand something based on where we are from, the color of our skin, the languages we speak. But you may not understand or completely appreciate or agree with the context that somebody else brings to it, but they also do not understand, appreciate, get your context. So you're also adding something to it. I was very insecure about exactly that. Like, who am I to talk about Chinese history and to record how Chinese people felt about the period of the opening? And so that's why I chose a partner to film with me who is not like myself. It's very easy to have a group of friends who are all like yourself, right? That's the natural, easy thing. You got to make an effort to surround yourself with people who are different, who have different perspectives. And I personally think that is the best I can do. I prepare as much as I can for these interviews. Like, I read all the books that these people write that we talk to. I obsessively prepare my questions, and I know what they are talking about when they are starting a sentence. That's my goal, right? If you do something like that, an old professor of mine used to say, you can only fail as low as your highest level of preparation, right? And so if you take it seriously and you come at it with sincerity, I think people will feel that.
Do we have more questions? Yeah.
It was very inspiring to, I'm here, hello. It was very inspiring, it was very nice, and actually I'm glad you drove Neo, I hope you liked it.
I own one, yes, I love it.
Because I used to work at Neo. So I'm a car designer, and I want to start kind of this storytelling journey, if you like, with movies. But I don't have any academic background. How important do you think is that? And do you think short film would be the right platform to exercise that and develop that skill set?
My first question to you is, do you have an opinion on the cars, right? Because realistically, whether you write a book, you play a song, you tell a poem, you tell a joke or something, it's an opinion. It's an idea, right? Like you were talking about Neo just now. What I find really interesting about Neo is that they humanize technology, right? I know no other car that women get into and are really connecting with as they are with Nomi in this little voice assistant, because it's cute, it's got eyes, it humanizes technology, right? And if I were making a film about that, I would ask, like, who came up with that? Who are the people behind it? Like, why are they different from other people who make cars? And let's face it, most cars today are microwaves on wheels. Like, they're all the same, they're ugly, they're devices. And somebody here did something different, something warm. So I want to know who's that. And so if you have an opinion on that, if you have a point of view that you think you want to share with the world, you will find a way.
Thank you.
All right, we have more questions.
Oh my God, I'm happy.
What are some patterns that you noticed across all the people that you interviewed?
Sincerity, really. I mean, you saw Brian Linden who was crying up there. You know, that happens a lot in interviews. People are thankful that anybody's interested in their stories, and sometimes it really surprises me, because we talked, for instance, with Roberta Lipson, who started United Family Hospitals, the first private foreign invested hospitals in China at the time when there's only state-run, government-run hospitals, and a woman who has legitimately saved thousands of newborn babies. And the sincerity and the one day at a time, I'm just living my life attitude among people who have done really extraordinary things together has really, really impressed me. I have a lot more hope for humanity after having spoken to so many people. And I do believe that we all, at our core, want to be good people.
Thank you. Do we have one more question? That's going to be the last question for today. No? Oh, we have one. We have one.
All right.
Hi there. My name is Sergey. I'm doing video stuff here in Shanghai.
Nice to meet you, Sergey.
A lot of interviews, actually. And once we had like really interesting person. I'm not gonna tell who was that. It's just his story started in Shanghai in '90s. He basically has seen Shanghai like growing like to the part like what we see right now. And the interview itself was like super interesting. In the end, he rejected to post it anywhere.
Oh.
Yeah. So did you ever had this kind of situation? So you filmed like really interesting person, and they may have changed their mind. I'm just gonna tell you like really quickly. At some point, he told us that when he came to China, it wasn't really legal. At some point, he came here without visa. At that point, it was like kind of hard to get it. They let him in, so he maybe was scared that he's gonna have some consequences. That's why he didn't want to do it. But did you ever have this kind of situation when you filmed everything, edited, and the person just rejected to post it?
That is a very, very important topic, actually. So for this series, what we do is we tell everybody, both sponsors and people who appear, you will not see the film before it goes online. You do not get to have any input on the edit at all. You can answer any question the way you like. And I see it as my responsibility because of where we live, that if you say something that I think will really get you in trouble here, I will not put it online. I will keep it, I will have it for the future. You know, we had people who were in Tiananmen and who were very graphically talking about it. And this was like, in one case, a very famous elderly Chinese economist who was there. And I know if I put that on there, he will get attention, you know? And sometimes what happens is people will say things in our interviews and not be aware of where the line is. And they go over it, and they say things that I in my heart know will get them into trouble. And I'm like, okay, fine. I will record it for posterity, but I will not put that online right now because I don't want anything bad happen to you. And I am trying very hard to build a reputation for my personal integrity and care about that people trust me enough with that. If somebody asks to have any kind of creative control and see it before, I will always reject it.
Thank you.
Because, you know, honestly, one sentence, I think that's the difference between PR and documentary, right? Documentary has to be authentic. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right, let's give a big shout out to Chris.